Hey everybody, welcome to First Fruit Sunday with Reese and VaLisa again.
Yes, we're back.
We are
And
back.
it is Sunday, Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
Yay! Who's out here well, we ain't in these streets actually.
No, we're home.
We're home this
Yeah,
weekend.
relaxing.
And we are relaxing. I'm
Yeah,
proud of us.
absolutely.
Taking it down this week.
Yeah, we had a great, wonderful day of worship at church this morning. I had the honor and the pleasure to be able to preach, and it was just a wonderful morning. But it's been definitely an eventful week.
It
We
has.
are recovering.
Always an eventful week in
Well,
our
we're
world.
recovering from COVID, so it's been a very interesting week. And yes,
I didn't have COVID, but he did. He tested positive, but
we
that
are
was
one
like,
flesh. I said
yeah,
we're
oh, well, you're
recovering.
right. We're one. We're
Yes.
one flesh. The whole house is recovering.
That's right.
Yes, and it actually wasn't bad. We would never have known
Mm-mm.
had we not done that at home
Yeah.
test
Yeah.
because we were supposed to attend a funeral and sing yesterday.
Yeah, but we weren't able to do some of those
Some
things.
of those things,
Yeah.
but praise be to God
Feeling better?
that we're feeling better. We're on the mend.
Yes.
Because what happens to him happens to me.
That's right. You catch that, y'all? You catch that?
That's
But
right.
but listen, we could not miss you guys today on First Fruit Sunday because we really enjoy our time together on Sundays. And once again, we have something to talk about with you guys today that we think will be really helpful. And I think a lot of times, this maybe sometimes seems like kind of common sense and things of that nature for your relationships or for your marriage. But we are oftentimes finding with our work with couples that a lot of times some of these things are not either A, common sense, or two, they're not being talked about. These are things that are happening in secrecy. And so what we wanted to talk about today is guarding your garden, right? And
Yes.
and that's obviously is a metaphor for your marriage, kind of hearkening back to the Garden of Eden when everything
Yeah.
was perfect and pure. And so we wanted to talk about the importance of purity in your marriage and really safeguarding your relationship from anything that can come in and really be destructive to
Yeah.
your relationship.
Absolutely.
And there's so many things, y'all. I mean, today is certainly not going to be an exhaustive discussion, and we're absolutely not going to be able to list out every possible thing that can kind of creep into your
There's
relationship.
all kind of things
Oh
out
my
there.
goodness, there's so much to be concerned about. But we wanted to just talk about some of the more common things that we've seen and also, invite you guys to tell us what have you seen? What are some of the things that have come up perhaps in your
In your
relationship?
relationship, something that's
Yeah.
plagued you and your family and
Hmm.
was really something that tripped you up.
Yeah,
Maybe you
that
didn't see it coming.
yeah. Or
Hmm.
maybe initially it started out as something that you didn't think was a big deal, which
Right.
is what we're going to talk about today. A lot of times these things start off as not, like a big deal. They just sort of seem, somewhat harmless, and then before you know it, they've grown into these huge issues that have caused some pretty significant damage to relationships. And y'all, we've seen a little bit of everything
Yeah, the
in
work
working
that we
with
do.
couples.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
work we do
So,
each week, talking to people
mm-hmm.
when they're vulnerable at a
Yep.
very, very tough space in their relationship. We pretty much have seen many, many things that have
Mm-hmm.
tripped them up. We've experienced things that have tripped us up.
Mm-hmm.
And, even in previous relationships that were the demise of the relationship, it's
Mm-hmm.
caused to be the downfall. So
Absolutely.
that's something that we're going to talk about today.
And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about to start off our discussion today
Hmm.
is really just sort of to lay the groundwork. When we talk about safeguarding your relationship, we're ultimately talking about anything that threatens your relationship's purity, anything that threatens this feeling of safety and
That's right.
security between you and your partner. And it can be anything, but some of the things that we will talk about just to kind of start off with, is really anything that we would consider, sin, basically.
Right.
So you're talking about lying.
Right.
If you are not an honest person and you're not honest with your spouse
Hmm.
or your significant other and they're not honest with you, then that's going to damage the purity of your relationship. It's going to be based on a lot of falsehoods, and it's going to be very, very difficult to develop and maintain trust in a relationship where one or both parties are not being consistently honest with each
Right.
other,
And
right?
sometimes not just overtly lying,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes without like withholding information. And
Mm-hmm.
what is it with something
A
omission?
lie of
A
omission.
lie of omission,
Mm-hmm.
basically
Mm-hmm.
just not being forthright. and the
Yep.
things that are going on in your world, the situations that you've come across, and the
Mm-hmm.
experiences that you're feeling. You're not
Yep.
letting your spouse know. Sometimes you're quiet, you're not speaking. It can be anything.
Absolutely. And so I think that's one of the things. But if you just go through really any of the lists of things that we know are biblical, sinful things that we should not be doing, fits of anger, abuse of any type, infidelity, and
That's a
there's
big one.
so many different
Yeah,
levels of infidelity and betrayals, right, Valisa?
that's right.
We actually got sort of familiar with one a couple of years ago
Yeah,
called
financial
financial
infidelity.
infidelity. You want to
I knew
talk
you were
about
going
that a
to
little
say
bit?
that.
Yeah, because a lot of people
Actually,
don't think that there's such a thing as that.
no, I had never heard this term before, and it's
Mm-hmm.
actually a thing where people, we didn't know it had a label,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we as a couple are, married, and we
Mm-hmm.
come together and we share bills and we share, all types of obligations maybe.
Yes.
And one person goes out and makes a huge purchase without their spouse knowing. And
Mm.
so actually I just talked to someone just recently about this, but this happened a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically stated on the form financial infidelity.
Mm-hmm.
I said, wow, I hadn't thought about that, but it
Yeah.
happens every day. It can
Yeah.
be something as small as $1,000 purchase on up to, I know someone who
Mm-hmm.
purchased a house on the side and their spouse did not know. It was a whole
Mm-hmm.
condo. It was a condo,
Yep.
but it's still a whole mortgage that they signed without their spouse knowing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then when things got good and they didn't need that second home, they were basically in a rut, in a
Yeah.
position where it was a really big burden on their
Absolutely.
household finances. So that was
Absolutely.
absolutely financial infidelity.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so infidelity, I think all of these things we can kind of put under one category of deception and secrecy. You know, these are things that a lot of times these individuals, their partners, were doing these things and they weren't aware of it. And so anytime you have any of those types of things going on, it is going to obviously it is going to damage the relationship. The purity of your relationship is going to be significantly impacted. And
Yes,
so keeping any relationship, especially keeping your marriage relationship pure, is what I call a two-person job. You
it
know,
is.
so you've got two
Absolutely.
people in the relationship, and
Hmm.
each person in that relationship, both the husband and the wife, are primarily responsible for guarding their own gates. And what do we mean by guarding
What
your
are the
gate,
gates,
Valisa?
Reese? Tell us
Because we
all
talked
about.
about the garden, but the
Yeah.
gates are our hearts and our minds.
Yeah, and also your eyes.
Yes.
Anything
Mm-hmm.
that can take in an experience,
Mm-hmm.
can take in information, take
Mm-hmm.
in all types of experiences. So
Yeah.
we need to guard our eyes.
Yep.
We need to guard our ears sometimes. We need to guard our mouth. Sometimes we're eating things that are inappropriate and it's
Mm-hmm.
like showing up on our body. Well, we must guard our mind and our
Yeah.
hearts as well,
That's right.
right?
And a lot of times we're not thinking that the things that we're allowing to come into our gate are things, again, that can affect our relationship.
Right.
And we will talk about that a little bit more as we go on today. But I think that what I really want us to grasp today is that it's about really taking a survey of your life individually.
Yes, being accountable to yourself, to
Mm-hmm.
thine self,
Mm-hmm.
and not always pointing the finger at your partner or
Yeah.
the person over there.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at yourself and examining your heart.
Right.
That's going to be really important for you to do in
Yeah.
this area of our
Yeah.
life.
And we think this is important information and really good ground rules or guidance, whether you are, really religious people or not. There are
Hmm.
just certain laws, there are certain rules that a lot of times we think we can kind of play fast and loose with them, and we're still going to have a solid relationship that feels secure,
Hmm.
that's thriving, that's healthy. But there are certain things you just cannot do. A lot of people try it. They try to think, and maybe even it's something that's done that's sort of mutually agreed,
Right.
and they think it's going to be okay. But most of the time, there are certain, there are very basic things that if you incorporate them into your relationship or your marriage, it's not going to work out well. So what do I mean by that?
Hmm.
Just little things. For example, porn. Some people think pornography is not a big deal,
That's right.
right? And so they think that it's okay to watch pornography. I'm not here to debate, whether or not pornography should be something that you uh, think is bad or whatever. That's not what I'm here to debate. What I'm saying is that
Hmm.
watching these types of things, going to places like strip clubs, these little things that you're dabbling in and you think it's just
It's
all
just
fun and
innocent.
it's innocent
That's their
and it's
job.
light.
It's
Yes.
nothing that's
It's no
real. It's pretend.
yeah,
Yeah.
these are the types of little things or activities and behaviors that can over time create again this in secure, unsafe environment in your relationship.
Right.
There's nothing good that comes out of pornography.
It isn't.
There's nothing good out of going to a strip club. When you think about these things, there's always negative things that are in and around those types of things that are related to the sex industry.
Yeah.
So it's just not something that's going to create bring anything healthy
No.
to your relationship,
And also,
right?
it plants a seed, right? It seems harmless, and I'm even going to go a step further and challenge some of us here,
Yeah.
because this is a challenge for us right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to be real. Watching rated R movies.
Mm.
I'm all for a good suspense thriller. I'm all for, I used to be really into the horror flicks when I was a teenager, and I loved watching Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm. Well, that was Nightmare on Elm Street. Just
Yeah.
all the, Alien, all of them. I just loved a good horror
Horror
movie.
film.
But when I really think about some of those things that I took in, and I saw Alien. I was about 7, 8 years old. I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
4 months.
Those
I
images.
literally thought that, the alien was going to bust at me. I really did. And that's because I probably shouldn't be in the movie theater at 7 with my auntie and my cousins watching Alien.
Yeah.
It just wasn't it was an inappropriate movie.
Right.
Right? 1979 or
Oh,
somewhere
wow.
around 1980, I went to go see that movie. Anyway, just any type of inappropriate series on Netflix, Hulu, whatever the channel is, HBO. One of them I really love, this very popular series, right? I watched the first, I'd say 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah.
And afterwards, it was like the sex and adult scenes were so intimate and intense, it took away from the talent of the actors. And it was just people being exposed in all types of different ways.
Yeah.
And sometimes you look at your partner, you're like, why you ain't doing that? Or why you don't look like that? Or what's going on with your pecs? Or he's looking at me, what's going on with your breasts and your butt? And it's like, okay, I don't look like her, and I'm not airbrushed, and that creates problems in your marriage. I'm going to speak about it because most likely all of us are adults here.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I think
so
that's-
it just plants a seed when
It
you're
really
watching
does.
all of these inappropriate language, even war scenes and battle scenes. That disrupts your spirit.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about it. It's
Right.
actually against, I'd say it harms this relationship that we have here. It harms when we allow our kids to watch these things, their perception of reality.
Well, I think also, even if you feel like this is something that can harm, that doesn't necessarily cause any harm, again, it is about the we. The we is more important than the
Than
me.
me.
And so if that's something that you are being told by your partner, by your spouse, that this is something that's upsetting to them, this is something that they really can't tolerate, it's not something that they really like to watch, then again, it's about creating that harmony, creating that sense of connection and intimacy with your spouse. Watch something else,
Something more wholesome, something that
yeah,
you both
something
can watch
that's
together.
yeah, something that's not going to cause your spouse to not be able to sleep, to not feel comfortable,
And to trip
y'all,
them up, too.
that baseline rule applies to everything. It applies to so much, because so much about being married is not about just focusing on me and what I like and my preferences and what I
Honoring
want and
your
what I
spouse.
need. It's it's honoring your spouse.
That's right.
So, VaLisa, let's get into some of these areas.
Okay.
We're only going to talk about maybe 5 or 6 of them, but again, not a very exhaustive list.
Right.
But we're going to talk about some things that we feel threaten the purity of a marriage or a committed relationship.
Okay, so the
right?
first one is having unhealthy boundaries.
Yes.
Friends, coworkers, acquaintances, exes. Sometimes
Ooh.
you are very close to your ex because you have to co-parent. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? To maybe have a positive relationship, a healthy relationship with your ex. Reese and I have a very, I think, healthy, positive relationship with Reese's his ex-wife, and it's healthy, but there's boundaries, right?
Absolutely.
Work spouses. This is a big one. Someone who you literally work together with almost 8 hours a day, sometimes 9 hours a day.
Or
Sometimes
more.
you're commuting with them to work, right? This person you share intimate information with, intimate time with, and sometimes feelings. You get upset over that project that didn't go right. And who do you turn to? The person who's your work spouse. I don't like that term, by
It's
the
an
way,
awful
y'all. It's an
term.
awful term.
Awful
But this is the
term.
person that is sharing it's in these intimate spaces.
Right.
And you become close. You start to tell each other things that are really things that should be kept between you and your partner.
Yes.
But you're now turning to this person because guess what? They are around you probably more than your partner is. When you come home, you're tired. You have to cook dinner. The kids are there. There's a lot of boundaries when you get back to the home. But at your job, you could be working in a lab together with this person almost 7, 8 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that can be inappropriate, right?
Absolutely.
Work trips, when you get in the car with the opposite sex and go driving off to this exotic place and spending extra time, that can be inappropriate.
Absolutely.
How about those text messages that you're exchanging with some random person from your past? Maybe it was a high school fling, a college relationship, and you're just like, hey, starts with a, hey, how you doing?
How's everyone doing?
How's everyone doing? What you up to, right?
Sliding in DMs.
Sliding in the DMs. I've had it happen, you've had it happen where people just pop up, and there's boundaries,
Absolutely.
I might basically, everyone's fine, and that's about it. Keep it moving, right?
But these are ways that people can inadvertently allow the sanctity, the purity of their relationship to be threatened by not having healthy boundaries and all these types of all these relationships. And let me just say this, like VaLisa just said, y'all, it often starts out innocent. When you talk about infidelity, when you talk about an affair, most affairs are not of the one night stand type. Most affairs, particularly those that start with people that you work with or people that you know from your past, they come from a place of familiarity, a comfort that you've developed with that person, perhaps some vulnerable sharing and some just laughing and enjoying time over a period of time, and then before you know it, this relationship has moved into an area that is inappropriate, and now you have betrayed your spouse or your partner.
That's an emotional breach of your relationship, an emotional affair.
Yeah, and you can have an emotional affair, as you guys know, I'm sure, a physical affair. And what we're seeing a lot of lately is inappropriate text messaging and social media use.
That is like a number one
Absolutely.
inappropriate thing that's going on right now.
Yes, and so this leads in kind of sort of to number two. It's kind of connected to number two. And this is, to me, a no-go.
This is
a no-go.
I think this because, especially for you newlyweds or people who are in newer relationships, we are with our girls and we're hanging with them. I had a single of seasonness, a season of singleness.
I know what you meant.
You know what I meant. So I had a season of singleness. I mean, my girls, we ran tough. We traveled Europe together. We went to the Essence Music Festival together, and we had a great time. And that was like early 2000s. That was my single season.
Single season.
Right. But once I got married, I'm still friends with them, but I am not able to hang with them the way that I used to be able to. And sometimes that really hurts my heart because I see them going places. I still want to go. I still want to be included in all the, birthday party bashes overseas, and I have little kids now.
Right.
So it's just not my season, So there's nothing wrong with going on a trip with your sisters and your girls, but I would just say to take it to the next level, to just guard those scenarios, guard those relationships.
Absolutely.
To make sure you're not in inappropriate bars or parties and places as a married woman or a man that you don't need to be.
And that's where it gets very, very difficult. So again, when I say it's a no-go, I mean a no-go in having a lot of single friends, whether fellas, these are your boys and they're all single. And there's not a lot of couples that you and your spouse or you and your partner have together, that you're hanging out together with. When you have a bunch of time where you're doing girls' nights out and hanging out with the girls, and then the fellas are going
every
out
weekend,
all the time, and there's no real consistent relationships where it's couples and you're a couple, you're married.
And you're
That's a
intimate couple
no-go.
time.
That's a
Yes.
no-go.
Hmm.
People who are single act as single people, right? If you are a married person, there are just certain things, there are places that you should not really be engaged and involved in because you are a married person. Once again, these things start off seemingly innocent enough, but they then can now slowly creep into the relationship and damage over time. It all starts off that way. So what about the next one? Sexual impurity.
Yeah, talk
That's
about
a
that one.
big
Yeah,
category.
very big.
But I'm talking about lust, I'm talking about pornography, I'm talking about obviously sexual infidelity, I'm talking about anything,
Right.
anything. And because this is such a common factor, a lot of times it's done in secrecy.
Yeah.
And so when the partner finds out, your spouse finds out, it is such a deep sense of betrayal and hurt, even if there wasn't necessarily a physical sexual relationship. But if you're viewing pornography on a regular basis, or if you are, sliding in females' DMs who are scantily dressed, fellas, and you're all through IG looking at all these things and connecting with these people or liking.
Liking
I
that
can't tell you
photo.
how many times we've had issues with couples where
They like the photo, and it's like, what you liking that photo for?
exact because it's
What's on there
inappropriate.
that you need to be liking or loving
It's
or
inappropriate.
even caring? Don't
Yeah,
care that photo.
that's
Don't
right.
hug it.
And
No,
so
no, sir.
and so that's what we
No,
and so
ma'am.
and
Ma'am too. No, ma'am.
and a lot of females are doing this as well.
Absolutely.
Wives
It's not just men.
and
Oh no. Who they
yeah,
doing it with?
exactly. And so I think what happens is that once again, these are things that we think, oh, it's no big deal. And sometimes we kind of, we sort of have this sense that it's not a big deal, but we kind of know it probably isn't okay because we don't tell our spouse or our partner that we're
Right.
doing it or that we've had these connections. And it's something that we kind of do, maybe even mindlessly, and we kind of do
You
it
scrolling
secretly.
at
You
night or
scrolling around,
scrolling at work.
that stuff will
Bad
get you in
news.
trouble every single time. And again,
Absolutely.
the next one, number 4, is
Hmm.
really a characteristic that is a theme in all of these that causes the most problem.
Yeah.
And that is just having a pattern of dishonesty and
And
secrecy.
secrecy. Yeah.
Anytime you have a relationship
Hmm.
that is characterized with one or both partners that are consistently being dishonest or secretive about really anything in their life. And it doesn't have to be sexual related. It can be your finances, like we talked
Sure.
about before.
Hmm.
It could be, and what I mean by finances, sometimes it's like they have, taken a sum of money and given it to a parent or given it to a family member without their partner knowing about it. And even if you have separate bank accounts or whatever, we don't, we have joint,
Yeah.
that's still a conversation that should be had between you and your spouse and your
Absolutely.
partner.
Especially
So,
large sums of money. I mean, if
absolutely.
you're giving your, sister or your parent
Oh
50
yeah,
bucks,
we're
a
not
100
talking about
bucks,
that.
nothing
We're
like
no,
that.
we're
We're talking
talking about
about big old loans to pay
hundreds
off
and
credit
thousands of
cards
dollars.
or,
Yes,
some medical bill. Even it
yes.
might not be a bad thing.
But you haven't
Just
discussed it with your
just tell
spouse.
your spouse. Just
Yeah,
let them know. Don't do
absolutely.
things in secret. Maybe you
Mhm.
have a hobby that you
Mhm.
don't feel your partner or your
Yeah.
spouse would approve of. Talk about it.
Yeah.
This is something I enjoy doing.
Mhm.
Talk about why they're uncomfortable. What
Yeah.
is it that makes them feel afraid for you?
Yeah.
So just talk about it because some of these things may not be healthy and you
Mhm.
shouldn't be doing it.
Absolutely.
So just,
Mhm.
don't be afraid to make sure that your partner and you are on the same page.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that that's really the most important part. And we'll talk about 4 ways to really get some of these things sort of taken care of and make sure you protect your marriage or your
Yeah.
relationship by doing these things. But
And number
one,
5. This
number
is
five
a
is
strange one, guys.
I don't think it's strange because a lot of people don't really think about it very
Hmm.
much. But I'm going to see if I can give people a hint out there and see if they can figure out what this one is. That is oftentimes a way that impurity can slip into your relationship when
Hmm.
you are married. What is that right there? That says a whole lot. That
Yes.
tells people right away that I'm off the market. Don't come for me because I haven't called you,
That's right.
right? But how many folks will go to the gym or go hang out on girls' night and slip that little ring off and put it in their purse or put it in their
Put it
pocket.
in that nightstand.
How many people do that? And then how many people will kind of convince themselves, oh, well, I don't want to lose it. Or I just take it off to, to wash the dishes, and sometimes I forget
Sometimes
it.
they have those workout bands that you can wear, and that way you don't have to kind of knock that diamond off. And
Yes.
it's just a plain band,
That's
and
right.
it's very sturdy. And they sell them, and that way it still sends a message that you're protecting your marriage. I'm off the market.
Yep. So I think what we're going to do, guys, is we want to wrap up by just giving. I was going to say a few more, but let's just do two.
Yeah.
Let's give them 2 ways to really help safeguard their relationship.
Okay.
Safeguard their. Let's just do 2 because I don't want to give them a whole lot, and we can do some more of this in another show.
That's right.
But the first thing and foremost is what we've already talked about. You have to sit down and talk about these things, and you have to create the boundaries and the rules for the relationship, right, VaLisa?
I remember when we were in school and we would have groups. And at the beginning of the group, you would sit down and you would make group rules.
Ground rules.
And that's what you should do with your marriage.
Absolutely.
Sit down and talk about what is inappropriate. Reese and I talked about this when we first got married. We talked about Facebook. When we got married in 2009, Reese wasn't even on Facebook when I met him. So I was like, you gotta get you a Facebook page.
I was in the dark ages. I wasn't even texting nobody.
He wasn't even texting y'all. Reese did not text.
I don't really want to be
And
bothered.
I remember his daughter, hey Jessica. I remember his daughter was like, my dad doesn't even text. Can you just get him to get text messaging on his phone? I'm like, girl, he got a flip phone. So
That's right.
I don't know if that's going to happen. We're going to have to get him a smartphone. So we got him a smartphone, and you started texting. But we had to lay some ground rules.
That's right.
Because even in 2008, there was some stuff going down in Facebook. There was some people sliding into DMs. And what we wanted to do was protect the future relationship that was blossoming and budding. And so what we did was said, all right, when it comes to social media, because obviously this is a thing that's not going away, how should we protect our relationship? And Reese said, number 1, get rid of the exes on Facebook.
That's right.
And so I'm like, all of them? He's like, get rid of all of them. So we both agreed to take the exes off of Facebook. And I think over the years, we've kind of developed and matured. And of course, we both have some exes. Some of your exes are on my Facebook page. But it's just because we have a very strong relationship now.
Yeah.
And we are in this space of, we know the rules, we know the boundaries. And so that's just not a big thing for us. But if it is, get rid of it.
Right.
If it's something that's going to cause you to trip up or sin or be very frail or vulnerable, cut it out.
That's right.
And cut it out by the root. Like literally, like I know one couple we counseled, they actually got rid of social media altogether. Like they don't have any Facebook.
Too much
They
problems
don't have
in
any
their relationship.
Instagram. All of it. They got rid of it, and that season.
And for them, it was a very wise move.
And it was. And until they got strong in that part of their relationship, they were not able to dive and dip into those types of areas.
Absolutely.
So if it's something that's going to be a struggle, let it go.
Gotcha.
It's not worth your relationship.
Yeah. One last thing, guys, and before we get out of here, be accountable. Right? Be accountable
that's a big thing for Reese.
Yes. Be accountable for yourself. Be accountable for your choices and your behaviors.
Yeah.
And if something is harming you or your relationship, especially if your spouse brings it to your attention, own up to it. Be accountable, and then you can go back and do number 1. Sit down and talk about what's okay for your relationship.
Yeah.
What is okay for your marriage, and be clear on your values. Be clear on your core convictions, what's most important for you guys. And once you gain agreement, then you both stick to what you have agreed to for your relationship.
Now, here's the thing. We actually have more here, but we're running out of time. We always try to stay under 30 minutes. And so what we'll do is we will make this available in a course that we have coming up.
That's right.
And so we will make sure that we kind of let you guys know what some of the other interventions that we have, some other tools that really can be helpful to guard your relationship against this threatening sin or this impeding, sometimes it's evil that seeps into your relationship.
And a lot of these are steps to help with infidelity recovery. These are things that weren't in place before, and now you have to put them in place now. So sometimes the harm has already been done, and part of the healing and restoration process is going back and creating the appropriate boundaries.
That's right.
So that's all we have for today, guys. We hope you guys have a wonderful Memorial Day holiday weekend.
Yeah, get some barbecue going for us.
That's right. That's right.
We'll be over.
And we encourage you guys again to take a look at your relationships. Make sure that you are talking about the ways you need to guard your gates individually, your hearts and your minds, and then also guarding your garden.
Garden your garden.
That's right. All right, y'all. We will see you on Friday for Flirty Fridays, and then next Sunday again
for First Fruit Sunday.
You guys have a great week.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy. Take care.
Bye, y'all.
Hello, everybody. I see y'all out there in Cyberland.